Good afternoon, good afternoon. Happy Easter, everybody. Happy Easter to you, my football fans. Happy Easter, Nico. Happy Easter, Ajab. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. We're doing great. How are you
I'm
doing?
doing good. Happy Easter. Happy Easter. How are you doing?
I'm fine, I'm fine. I just came back in town. I traveled for Easter, but we are ready to talk football. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, very ready, man. Very ready to talk football. It's been an exciting weekend of football.
Yes, it was a busy weekend of football, and I hope you guys out there are also enjoying your Easter and you guys are ready to talk some football. Before we start, please share. Let's engage. Let's talk football. It's been a busy weekend. We all enjoyed the games, and we're ready to talk about it, analyze it. So, which one of you guys actually enjoyed the Arsenal? When it was a draw. I mean, Arsenal Manchester City game.
I didn't.
You did not. I mean, why? Why?
Um, it's not what I'd expected. But at the same time, it's a game of two teams who are fighting to be at the top. So I think both of them decided to play safe. It wasn't as free flowing as we normally watch Man City or Arsenal playing. So that's
I
why I
mean,
say I didn't really enjoy the game. It was more of a tactical display than actual football. Let's say someone who has nothing to lose just want to watch football for the first time and say, okay, I want to start watching football. I don't think this is a game that will make them want to watch football again. But from someone who's been watching football and has a little bit of the tactical knowledge of how football works, will say, oh, it was a good game. The people at the bench played the game more than those on the pitch. That's how I look at the game today.
yeah, I think many fans have that opinion since they didn't see any goals to open up the games. They will basically tell you that you know that they did not appreciate the game as much because the game was not actually open. Arsenal did not dare enough, but as you rightfully said, tactically, I think the game was strong. What about you, Nico? Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nico.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was muted there for a second.
Oh, okay.
Barking dog. But as an Arsenal fan, hey, the result is not what I expected going there. But you take the good and the bad together, and looking at the game, we actually stood our own. I don't remember any time in recent history we went to the Etihad and came away with a point. Uh, you know, much less actually. Let me say we came away without carrying a basket of goals, much less a point. Right? We I think we played our game today. The tactics were somewhat spot on. We knew City is a dangerous animal. You don't go there and try to play free flowing football like other teams do. I mean, look at it. City hasn't lost a game at home in what 18 months. There's only three teams that have come there, gone to the Etihad, and come away with a point, right?
Yeah.
So we just have to take it as a big plus for us. A point away from home at the Etihad, not bad. We're still second in the table if you look at the rankings right now, second in the table. So we're still in the chase. We're still in the chase. That's the important thing. Some people may think we dropped 2 points, but I think in the big picture, the bigger picture of things, we actually came away unscathed, and we live to fight another day, basically. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you for that. I didn't want to actually start with that game, but let's actually start with the Borussia Dortmund versus Bayern game.
Oh
That
yes.
is another game that we have not seen Borussia Dortmund win away at Bayern. And coming into this game, we know Tuchel is at the end of his time at Bayern Munich, but both teams basically have not been great in the Bundesliga. It's been Leverkusen. They're running away with it. But we saw how Borussia Dortmund went to Bayern and dominated that game, beating Bayern Munich by 2 goals to 0. I mean,
Yes.
what do you guys actually draw from this game? Because we know these two teams are also looking forward to that Champions League. There are various Champion League ties. What are your impressions about Bayern Munich, the way they play, Ajab?
Before I talk about Bayern Munich, I want to talk. I'm donning a Bayer Leverkusen jersey. I'm a
Yep.
Alonso fan since he's playing there. So by default, I'm a Bayer Leverkusen fan, and also because of Victor Boniface, I love the way he plays football. So I'm a Bayer Leverkusen fan. I actually got this on Friday, so I said I should put it on today. So based on the way Bayern Munich approached the game, Bayern played like zero motivation. It's like they've given up. The way they played against Dortmund, it was like they've given up. Like, okay, the league is over. Maybe even the Champions League is over. Let's just play because we have to play. That's the way they approach the game. And then Dortmund, on the other hand, is also fighting to get that fourth or third spot in the Bundesliga, because I think Stuttgart is third, and then they're fourth, and then Leipzig is right behind them. So they came to approach the game, and like you mentioned earlier, Tru3lion, is the first time. I think this is the first time they've beaten Dortmund in the Allianz Arena since 2013 or 2014, and it's the second time they're winning that since 2018. So it was really, really a progress for them, and I love the way they approached the game. I thought they were going to come in with a defensive setup, but they played the game. They had one defensive midfielder, an offensive midfielder, and then they had I always forget his name, but that's not important. At least they approached the game with an offensive piece, and then they had the young Dutch guy who came from Chelsea, which I thought probably they'll probably put him to play as a winger and bring in a real defensive, a real left back. But he played as a left back position, and he also played well. So Dortmund approached the game really positively, because I think they are aware of the fact that Bayern is not playing the way they normally play. So let's not have that defeat that the mindset of Bayern is always superior to us, and then we go like we want to defend, or we go with that inferiority complex. They actually approached the game like they were the favorites, and I think that's why they were able to be victorious in the game, even though Hurricane gave away a few missed a few chances. Bayern were not clinical and all that, but at the end of the day, it was a 2-0. It wasn't like a one goal where you say, oh, they just had that one chance and they scored. It was the second goal was actually a well organized chance. The first goal as well from the German guy too, was also a creative chance. So Dortmund approached the game the way they were supposed to approach, taking into consideration the fact that Bayern has been poor lately. So they took advantage of that. And 2-0 was the final score at the Alliance Arena.
Okay, thank you for that. I think Nico, you've heard Ajab say that Bayern actually played without much enthusiasm. However, do you think it was Bayern Munich that's not good? I know Arsenal were playing Bayern in that Champions League time. Do you think Bayern Munich is actually not good enough, or Dortmund was just much more a better team? I know we saw Adeyemi over there at the wing. I think he was an outstanding player. But what are your thoughts about this Bayern Munich team?
Look, when you look at the field tilt of the game, you would think, um, Dortmund kind of got lucky, because I think for the majority of the game, possession was on the side of Bayern, right? If you look at the fact that Dortmund scored in the first 10 minutes of the game, 10th minute of the game, and also in the waning minutes of the game, it tells you what happened. You want to ask yourself what happened in between that time, and that's where the game was won. I think for all the talk about Bayern not being impressive, I think they may have come into this game with something on their backs. I think in terms of the fact that this game kind of just solidified, or just gave them a reason to say the title race is over, because I think with this loss, Bayer Leverkusen goes 13 points
30 points. Yeah.
free at the table, top of the table, right? So I think they came into this game with that bullseye on their backs, knowing that if they dropped any points here, that was it. And so there was no real charge for them to do it. But I think on how the game went, they actually took control of the game for good moments of the large portions of the game. That's why their possession was higher. But I just don't know what it is with Tuchel and some of these teams and the tactics that they employ. Right, the team is good on paper. When they started the game, they had all their subs and everything. I think Moting Chupo Moting started, or he came in. He came in off the bench. Um, what's the other one? Musiala. You wonder what's happening to this team, because they're so talented. But I'll just leave it there. I think Dortmund came with a plan, executed it perfectly, scored a goal, sat back a little bit, watched Bayern try to score them and figure out what to do, and then they took another advantage, scored a second, and that was it. The game was over. Dortmund is trying to get into that Champions League spot for next year. So hey, give it, yeah, for next season. Sorry. So give it to them. Give it to them. They played a masterful game. Allowed possession to the opponent because they were away from home too. Think about that. They were away from home. So allowed Bayern to have the lion's share of possession and just play their game. And that's just how the story goes. I think this is it for Tuchel. They might actually sack him before the season ends if they don't come away with something good from the Champions League. And that's gonna scare me. I know it's another topic for a different day, but that's what scares me more with them losing this game. Right, I'm thinking they've lost this game now, and then if they don't really have some good results, a good run of results to run with, they may just use the Champions League as that saving grace for them, and that could turn the story around. But let's see how it goes. I'm not too worried at this point. But hey, Ajab, I have to call out. Nice shirt there, Leverkusen. It would
Well,
have been nice if you had a Chelsea shirt, but hey,
No,
that's
I
fine.
have a Chelsea shirt, but I just had to put on this today.
yeah,
Next week,
well,
next week I'll put on the Chelsea shirt.
yeah, for that game, this actually what I saw. I think Bayern was playing well when they were actually narrow in the midfield. You found Müller falling in the midfield and all that, but in the final third, they were not that good. Their passes were not able to break Borussia. Brandt and Emre Can, they did a good job, especially
That's the
when they were
compliment.
coming out from their defensive positions into attack, going through Adeyemi. Sometimes you found Sancho coming in the middle and spreading out wide. So counter-attacking, Borussia Dortmund was very, very good, and that's how they scored their first goal.
Yes.
And I think Bayern Munich, yes, they might have good players that you see, but their fluidity, the type of fluid football they usually play, you don't see that anymore because of maybe players like Conan who are very good at spreading the field wide, uh, coming back from injuries and stuff like that. And the team is not actually well coached at this moment. So actually, let's move on to the. I think we have to move on into the EPL. Let's talk about the Manchester United Brentford game. It's a game that I actually predicted to be a draw. I knew Brentford was going to give some type of trouble at Manchester United because Manchester United, when you just look at the season, they have not been consistent, right? But we saw Brentford be very wasteful. I mean, what do you make of that? Because it was not only, you can't say that Brentford doesn't have good strikers, but I remember when we spoke about Brentford here about 2 weeks ago when they played Arsenal, some of you guys talked about their drought scoring. Do you think that this affected Brentford, and should they have put on their scoring boots? Maybe Brentford would have come out with 3 points. I mean, what do you think about this, Nico?
Brentford.
I just
Oh,
want
go
to
ahead.
say something.
Go ahead, Nico.
Brian Buemo. When he came into that game, even though the team was down a goal, when he came into that game, when I think he came in towards the end of the game. They were Mason Mount had just scored. Was it Mason Mount? Yeah, Mason Mount had
Yeah.
just scored, and he literally, you could tell something changed about Brentford. You could tell something changed about Brentford when he came in. He had like three or four chances back to back when he came into that game, and it was so much fun watching at that point. I love, by the way, I also love his cut, the bull zero and the beard. It just tells you that there's something about this Brentford. And they have missed out on so much, because I think going into this game they had lost like 14 straight games. And I think it was like I was looking at it like they might actually sack their coach Thomas Frank. But the game had its own storyline, I would say. It wasn't as impressive as I would have thought. Brentford was playing at home. Brentford has generally always been a tough place to go and come away with points. But Man U, when they scored, I was like, wow, what a storied return for Mason Mount, back from injury, back off from the bench, and he scores a goal. Um, was it a assist from Casemiro, and then beautiful ball, and then you're thinking Manu is just gonna take the points home and wrap it up, and hey, somehow, you know, they dropped the how do you say it? They dropped the soap in the bathroom or whatever. Yeah, I'm not gonna use that pictorial, but yeah, Manu couldn't just take the game home. They scored. They had time to just lock up shop. They didn't do it. Allowed Brentford into the game in a sheepish manner. And even Onana's heroics on the day couldn't save them, because I think Onana had some amazing saves, and some a brilliant game. Onana actually had a very good game against Brentford. I think there was like 23 shots during the game, and so it's pretty interesting stat to look at. But yeah, I not much to write home about in this game, to be honest, except towards the end of the game when you're thinking Manu has just figured out a way to take the 3 points home, but then it always ends up being Manu, right? So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for that. I mean, Ajab, it's been international day. I mean, the international break were just over. We've heard a lot about players like young players like Ganacho, Manu, and I keep telling people that when you have young players that are the best players of your team, you have to be a little bit worried because now everybody expects this player to be leading Manchester United, but we know they are young and experienced. Although they are very talented, they are young and experienced, and the inconsistency of Manchester United actually continues. What do you make of the play of guys like Manu and also I don't want to talk about Rashford, but you throw him there and Garnacho. I mean, because against Brentford, I did not actually see them. But what do you
The,
actually make of this?
yeah, the first thing about the Brentford game with regards to Mino, I think I will say the setup wasn't good. When you play with the midfield with Mino and McTominay. McTominay is a player where maybe I don't know where I don't know his position on the pitch. I don't know where he's good at. You play Mino and McTominay. McTominay, every time you see him, he's like what they call a box to box, but he's not an effective box to box because all he wants to do is score. So the gap between Mino and McTominay was like Bamenda Boya. So there was so much space. So that affected Mino's game. Mino is now the kind of defensive midfielder that is good at tackling. He's good at getting the balls and distributing, getting the balls and distributing. But when you have that gap between Mino and McTominay no assisting Mino, it affects Mino's game. He was just from playing, having an exciting game against Brazil and against Belgium, and then he comes back against Brentford and it's a shadow of himself. I think the setup was wrong. Casemiro has not been himself, but I think if Mino plays with someone that sits back and then gives him a little bit of freedom to be able to make those touches, you would have seen a different game. I think the problem was the pairing of McTominay and Mino affected Mino's game. Ganacho too. I think he's become a social media boy, or he's trying to. I don't know. He's trying to prove a point to someone. He's not playing his game anymore. He's trying to play someone else's game that is starting to affect him. So he should calm down, get back into his shoes, and play the game he normally plays. But Brentford had a good game. Brentford dominated the game. Um, it's a game at the score line 1-1. Yes, Brentford was playing against United. United is a big team, even though they've been inconsistent. But if you watched the game and then Brentford won the game 1-0, you would have been okay. Brentford deserved the win.
Yeah.
Brentford came from behind 1 or 2 minutes after and equalized, and you say, okay, no, Brentford deserved at least a point in this game. Onana was good. Ivan Tony, I'm one of those guys who are thinking maybe Ivan Tony is shaky. I don't think, but if those top teams in England, maybe United, Chelsea, Arsenal, they want to go for a Premier League proven striker, I think Tony should be the one they should go for. Because this guy just came back off a 1 year ban. But He doesn't look like someone who had that ban. It hasn't affected him mentally. It hasn't. He just came back and then he continued with his business. And Nico mentioned Buemo. Buemo came in at the 70th minute. His first touch or second touch was an assist that he gave to Tony, which was he was offside by an inch. So Bemo's coming back to Brentford. The way they approached the game when he came in, not on the set pieces. They actually started organizing play. Shows that maybe Bemo was really a missing piece. I think his injury has affected the team. So let's wait and see if the last 7 or 8 days, playing days, Bemo is going to be that effective to the team. But Brentford has always been a tough place to go play there. With most of those top teams, they don't get it easy when they go to Brentford to play the game. So United left with a point. They were not impressive, but at least Brentford was wasteful. Like I said, if Brentford won the game, they would have deserved it. They came with a point. They still deserve it because the way they played the game, they were not supposed to leave this. They were not supposed to leave the game without at least a point. So that's how I look at the game. But the point when your question on Mino, I think they set up the midfield pairing of Mino and McTominay affected Mino's game because you have someone in front of them with Bruno Fernandez who doesn't track back. So it's already a problem. And then you have McTominay who is more now of a scorer than a midfielder. So Mino was isolated in the middle of the park against a physical Brentford. So that's all I have to say about that game.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, this is what I actually gathered from the game. I've been talking that Manchester United this season looks more like, well, even maybe last season, they are more of a reactive team than being proactive. So, in order for Manchester United or Ten Hag to be able to change this approach, there are some players that I actually think are like deadwood in Manchester United. I'm talking about Juan Bissaka. Yes, I know that he was played in a different position. He was playing more as a left back,
Left back, yeah,
yeah, as a left back, but also current football, the modern football is more of a fluid game, right? Where players have many different roles in a game. It's not just you being stuck in one position. You should be able to play one more than one or two positions moving forward. So I think players like that, maybe next year, if Manchester United is trying to change, and also I don't know what the situation with Rashford, but I think Rashford is in his head is like just I think he's overrated. Don't get me wrong. Yes, he can score some goals when he's in his good mind. But how many times have we seen? How many seasons have we seen a guy like Rashford? Just wasting the whole season. So I think Manchester United has to think twice. I won't say that Ten Hag is mostly like the problem, but moving forward, they really need someone that can help them change that mentality because with the same set of players with the same mentality, even next year, I don't see them challenging for
Yeah. Let me just say
the
one
EPL.
thing for 1 second, truly. I'm sorry. Another thing, I
Yes,
know you guys will not agree with me, but United has played 28 Premier League games. They've had 21 different centre back pairings.
About pairings.
Yeah,
Yeah, I,
it's a
I was
problem.
going to
Like
note that. I think
yesterday,
it's
both
worth
centre
calling
back,
out because the injuries
both,
have
yeah,
been tough.
yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what's happening to them.
Yeah,
Maybe either they have to check the physical trainer um,
no,
uh,
but
Ten Hag revisits his
'cause
training
the
regiments,
technique.
or maybe the
Yeah,
nutrition. I don't know. Something is wrong. Yeah.
because even yesterday, who was the guy? Lindelof. He came off limping,
Lindelof and
and he
Varane,
was paired
those
with
are the two
Varane.
centre back pairings. They left in.
Yeah,
Martinez and Maguire came in. So
yeah.
they're always having those issues.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
what's happening.
Lindelof was limping as he was leaving. So it's a tough thing. The other thing is I mean, yeah, we'll talk about this Brentford Manu's defense and the injuries and things like that. I know we can pause it, we can talk about that for hours about injuries and impact on the team. But one thing I think we need to call out is the fact that Brentford hit the woodwork. I think I counted 4 times throughout the game. Ivan Tony, Buemo, and another person, I think Janelle, they hit the crossbar, was it the post 4 times throughout the game, and then saw a goal disallowed. So it's like of the about 30 times they tried to score, the 30 attempts they tried. So I almost look at it like Brentford actually missed an opportunity here to win their game, right? Especially because Manu scored that goal, which took everybody by surprise, and then they did come away with the point. Like Ajab said, because they came away with the point, we still say they deserve the point. But if they had come away with the win, we would have said they deserve the win. So
Yeah, and
that's a
that's
good way
that's
to
the
sum
funny
it
thing
up.
about stats. The stats now says that those four shots that hit the woodwork, They're not counted as
Mhm.
shot on target.
A shot on target, exactly, and that's
So
that's 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 the fallacy of stats in football, but
yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, actually, I called this game a tie because I knew how wasteful Brentford
yeah.
is actually, and given what they have been doing in the recent calendar year, I think they have not yet found that spark in order to get them moving forward. Their first shot on target was actually on the 42nd minute in that game. They created so many opportunities, but their first shot on target was in the 42nd minute. You know, so somehow I knew maybe the result. Is just going to be a draw, despite the fact that they were actually playing at home. Let's actually move to one of the most interesting games Saturday. I'm talking about West Ham versus Newcastle. It was a game full of, I mean, the game was open because of the early goals. I think there was another early penalty that saw Isaac score 1-0 Newcastle. Newcastle is always a tough place to play. But, I mean, what do you guys think about David Moyes? It seems as if David Moyes is actually losing it. He was up 3-1, and all of a sudden his team crumbled. I mean, what was the mistake he made, if I might ask you first, Ajab?
Um, they played without a defensive midfielder. I think that's where the problem is. They started the game with Suchek. Suchek technically is a kind is the it's the McTominay 2.0. The midfielders where that those are midfielders that you talk about them when they score, which I think that's not how a midfielder is supposed to be. Suchek plays, he scores more than he actually plays. So a game where he doesn't score, you're gonna say he did not perform well. So he was one actually technically playing like the holding midfielder in that game. He played alongside James Ward-Prowse, who is another technically they say defensive, but I don't think it's a defensive midfielder. So I think that kind of affected. But they were in the game, even they were in the game. I don't know what actually happened. Like you said, maybe Moyes is losing it, or the players became so comfortable that they thought that maybe everything was done, especially with the fact that Newcastle has not been doing well. And so when they were 3-1 up at St. James Park, they were so comfortable because they scored the third goal at the 48 or 49 minutes. So they were like, oh, okay. And then they played until like what before they had that other soft penalty that Isaac scored, and then Barnes just became the decider, scoring some two excellent goals, you know. So, but I don't know what's happening to West Ham because on one day you think West Ham is coming back, the next day it's just like in Man United. Man United had an excellent game against Liverpool, and then the very next game now against Brentford is like the opposite of it. The same thing is happening to West Ham. West Ham had an excellent game in the Europa League. Their players also playing international football, like how they call him. Isaac had a good game for Sweden. Uh, Bowen too was good for England. So besides the individually they were good, and then the team too has been good, and then they come back now leading 3-1 against Newcastle. You think it's done and dusted, and then you see they lose the game. So I don't know what's happening. I'll also give thumbs up to Eddie Hall because he's been going through a lot to injury wise. He's not those managers who have been in the game for so long that you think they're able to manage some of those situations. So I think I also give him thumbs up that he's been able to manage some of those injury crises he's had with Newcastle, and at least Newcastle is not down. It's not at the bottom of the table or bottom 10 of the table, based even though they've had that many injury crises. But I don't know what to say honestly about this game, especially with David Moyes, because he was really looking good at some point by midway of the table and then midway of the league, and then right now he looks like he's going to struggle. Maybe he's not even going to make the conference league. So that's all I have to
Well,
say about the game. Yeah.
okay. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Ajab. Well, Nico, when you talk about David Moyes, we know he has won West Ham a trophy in Europe recently. But the way they are actually playing, given the quality of players, I know Kudo is actually a very exciting player. 3-1 up into the second half. You're away playing at Newcastle. You know how difficult that place is. He tries to go defensive. He pulls out Mikael, I
Jamaican.
mean the Jamaican international, and then
Antonio, yeah.
we see Newcastle come back and score 3 goals. I mean, what do you make of this?
Um, I bring it down all to the coach. He's gonna rue the missed opportunity because there's no reason why at around the 48th, 50th minute you're 3-1 up against Newcastle away and you cannot close the game down. And there's also much to say about the fact that Newcastle ended the game with 10 men. right? And it's after Gordon got the red card, the second yellow that gave him a red card, that then allowed them to, somehow Isaac and Longstaff got those goals, the equalizer first, and then the winner. If you think about it, I think the ref may have caused us to rethink the story script for this game. I think that penalty where he went back to VAR, and sometimes VAR does this thing where you're wondering to yourself, like, how is this possible? Do these guys even understand how the flow of football goes? Yes, I know that the rules are the rules on paper, but when you're on the field and you can make judgment calls, something like that. How do you bring it back and say it's a foul and put a penalty? I mean, I think that's the point where the story started unraveling for West Ham and David Moyes. I think there is a lot to make of the fact that Kudus is playing in a team that I think there's actually three: Kudus, Paqueta, and Bowen. They're playing in a team that they shouldn't be playing in. To be honest, they're too talented for West Ham. I hate to say it, but it's true. These guys are wasting their time and talent for West Ham because the team doesn't seem to always answer the call when it needs to. I would prefer to see Kudus play somewhere else. Maybe Chelsea needs him or something. They can switch with Mudrik. I don't know, but Paqueta especially too. It would be nice to see him play somewhere else because for all the effort they put in, all the work they do, to come away with a 4-3 loss when they were 3-1 up, it just makes me think, something is missing. Something is wrong at West Ham. Something is not happening well in that dressing room. Something is off. And I point the finger at the coach. I point the finger at the coach. Both coaches, by the way, got yellow cards in this game. So, but I point the finger at the coach, right? I think David Moyes needs to go back to the drawing board, change up his training tactics, do something, to get back on the right track of things. So that's just me.
Yeah, but why are you gonna say you think they need to play for Chelsea? West Ham is actually seventh in the table, and Chelsea is 11th. And West
No,
Ham
I
is
mean,
having a better season. Even last year, they just won a European. So are
That's
you saying that they
yeah,
should be playing for a team as bad as Chelsea instead
a
of a
bigger
team?
name team. That's what I should say. One of
I'm
the
that
sorry.
top
what I
six teams.
what I
I
thought
should have
was
said top six teams.
I've been telling
Chelsea just came to mind because I don't think any other team right now can afford a player.
I was talking to JC
Hmm.
one of our fans here. He's a Tottenham fan.
Yes,
I said if I had the chance to recruit for Tottenham, I would sign Mohamed Kudus.
kudos. Oh yeah, that's another team he's perfect for
Yeah, I said
because
I would
the
sign
style
Mohamed
of
Kudus if
football
I had.
fits
Yeah,
him. Yeah,
he will be an
he
exciting
will be
winger. He will give Kulusevski a run for his money. He will
the run
also
for
be
his
good for the
money.
right flank. He can play on the right flank. He could play on the left
Hmm.
flank. He could play sometimes right behind Son when let's say Madison is not fully ready and all that.
Fit.
So he
Yeah,
will give Tottenham many options. He's a good winger. He'll give you goals, and he's also good with the ball. So if I had the choice to recruit for Tottenham Hotspur, like Mohamed Kudus, for one of the top four teams. And I also, you're not just sending him to Man City. I don't think he will have that
yeah,
enough playing time, or maybe Arsenal and all that. But if I for those top four teams, a good transition will be West Ham to Tottenham for
So
yeah,
Mohamed Kudus, if you ask me.
yeah.
so you're saying that you should go to a team that cannot win a trophy, leave a team that just won a trophy
Um,
to go to a team
No,
that
no,
can
no.
win
The
a
point,
trophy.
the point, though. I think what
True
he's trying to
Lion,
say,
conference league, top four
it's
finishes
not
bigger
really
than
a league.
conference league.
Yeah, it's not really.
Yeah,
How much is in that trophy even? Think
Conference League is
about
one
it.
of those tournaments that UEFA lost a lot of money during COVID, so they're trying to
They're
recover the
just trying
money.
to make
That's
the
why
money back.
they organize.
Exactly.
Conference League is not. Forget about the tournament, the trophy that they won. Tottenham, you cannot say West Ham is bigger than Tottenham because they won
I'm
a
not
trophy.
saying bigger. I'm not saying bigger. I'm
Trophy.
talking of actual. I'm talking of. I did not say
No, but
bigger. I'm not
okay,
using the word bigger. What
True
I'm
No, no.
Lion.
saying
If
is
you,
that
if
you're
If
telling him
you
to go to a team that has no hopes of winning
no,
a title.
no,
if you were a player that teams West Ham and Tottenham are after you, and you know confident that you can make the first team for both teams, which one will you go there? Will you
No,
look
I'm
at
not
the
taking it. Don't take it out of context. You are
okay,
trying to spread the discussion. Don't take it out of context. I'm talking about
okay.
okay,
competitive teams right now. I think if Kudus leaves a team like West Ham, he should be gunning for teams like Arsenal. He should be
true.
gunning for teams like
Okay. Arsenal will
Liverpool.
not be bad
He
now.
should,
Liverpool.
But
yeah.
Yeah,
Of course, don't get me wrong.
yeah,
Spurs,
but
yes, but Spurs, their culture, I
yeah.
don't think they have a stable enough culture to actually
I look
To
but
at the
actually
way
go.
that's just my
Ange is
opinion.
playing. the kind of football Ange is
Mhm.
playing, I think Kudus will fit in very well. And oh, maybe it's okay.
He will
Like
fit in
you have a
anywhere, to be
point.
honest.
Maybe it's a one season wonder. Let's see how Ange is going to
Yeah,
play with
let's
Tottenham
see how
next
it
year.
goes.
But
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way
yeah.
Tottenham has played this year, it will be a good transition for someone. Because another
True.
point, you might be leaving West Ham and then just going for those title challengers, and then maybe you have 2, 3 bad games and you're done.
And
You
that's it.
understand? So that's another way to I look at it.
So
Well,
the one thing before we move off this game, I just want to point out what do you guys make of Calvin Phillips coming into the game and then immediately giving away the penalty, which caused the guys to go 3-3, which caused Newcastle to go 3-3 in the game. Like what do you guys think about that? I
well,
think it looked like he kicked Gordon, but he kicked his shoe. As he was swinging for the ball again. Like I said, those two penalties, yeah, but what are your thoughts? I really want to see because I don't know if you guys are thinking about it the way I am, but I just felt that the refs kind of dropped the ball on this.
Well, I don't want to get on Calvin Phillips. A lot of guys just being harsh on him because I mean, he left Manchester City. He went to Manchester City and it did not work out. I mean, how many players go to Manchester City and it works out? It did not actually work out for him. So I mean, give him some time. He needs a fresh start. I hope West Ham can actually give him the time to gather himself because he's a good player, but it's just psychology. Psychologically, he needs to pick himself up. That's just it.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Got it.
Yep. So that brings up to our game. I know we started talking about that game, Arsenal versus Manchester City. I want us to talk again about that game. I think let's just read. I mean, someone in the comments just said that was never a penalty. If it was soft penalty or never a penalty, I mean, we cannot criticize the guy for that. But I want to focus on a comment that Bidakola actually just made because that leads up to us back to that Manchester City versus Arsenal game. He
Mhm.
said not only coming back with a point, but with City having just one shot on target means Arsenal has improved compared to last year. Of
Yes.
course, Arsenal has improved compared to last year. Now everybody is seeing that, but at the beginning of the season, a lot of people were criticizing Arteta heavily that his team of last year was better, and they feel that Arsenal should have won the league last year. Let me throw this to you guys. Any of you guys, just not long, just 30 seconds. Do you guys feel Arsenal could have won the league last year? Nico, I start with you.
Interesting interesting question. I don't think we had a bench deep enough to win the league. Um I mean it was good that we believed, right? It was good that we got to a point in the season where we were thinking we were going to win. We were really excited because we had this like 8 points ahead of everybody else, and we kept people kept reminding us that City had a game in hand and that we still had to go to the Etihad. And just to think, I think the date was April 26th last year where we went to City, and if you look at our setup on that day versus the setup today, then you understand that, we have really come a long way. Imagine Rob Holding being our defender. Part of the two defenders, central defenders to defend in this game with Haaland, Grealish, and Silva attacking. And Rodri was there, Gundogan. Think about it. We've come a long ways. I'm gonna tell you, after we lost that game with the series of draws that we had, I already knew we were not gonna win the league.
Okay,
It's always tough. That's my take, anyways. So
no. Your answer is no.
no, no. In a lot
Okay,
of ways, no.
what about you, Ajab?
Arsenal finishing second last season was an achievement to me.
Thank you.
Anyone who think Arsenal was supposed to win the league last year, they were not serious. Just because at some point Arsenal had that margin, they thought Arsenal wasn't ready. If you look at the way Arsenal is, that's why I tell people that even Arsenal doesn't win the league this season, there's a massive improvement. People will say, nah, but they don't win league. No, but if you watch the way Arsenal is playing this season versus last season, I give thumbs up. I've been criticizing Ateta, but I thumbs up to Ateta. I'm so impressed with the way Arsenal approaches these games. And let me go back to that question. No, Arsenal wasn't supposed to win the league. Second was an achievement to me.
Okay, so the game today, we saw the game today and how the game actually panned out. Manchester City had all the possession, but in the final third, they were not creating opportunities. They only had one shot on target. In that, in that game. So, I mean, what do you guys make of the lack of creativity for Manchester City in the final third? Was it Haaland not able to liberate himself from Gabriel or from Saliba, or was it the Manchester City players not good enough to actually find open players in the final third to have good shots or good view on target? Let's start with you, Ajab, on this one.
It all boils to Arsenal's approach. I focus more on the way Arsenal approach the game. If you look at the game, Arsenal's focus was not Haaland. Arsenal's focus was preventing De Bruyne from having the balls. And that's why if you notice, Kovacevic had more touches during the first half than anybody in the uh, in the I think the most touches in the midfield for Man City. Arsenal prevented Rodri and De Bruyne to have that much touches of the ball because they know that if De Bruyne has that touches, it's going to be dangerous on them. Even Bernardo Silva, he was doing the things, but most of the times he would take the ball and pull it back. And that's why even I'm saying Odegaard didn't play well. The reason because Odegaard is known for his creativity. But it's like Ateta told him today that limit your creativity. Try to prevent Rodri and De Bruyne from getting those balls. So if you notice, Odegaard spent most of the time today committing fouls. His passes were not good. But like I said, from a tactical point, he played well. But if you're someone who wants to enjoy football, you think Odegaard had a bad game because it's not. Haaland was doing the runs. Haaland was doing the runs, but the balls were not coming because they prevented those who feed him the balls to get the balls, and that was the masterclass from Arsenal. Declan Rice gave away a lot of those corner kicks, but the way he played the game, he was so confident each time. Declan Rice had the ball. He didn't do those tackles or clear the ball. He put the ball down. He tried to calm down the tempo of the game and give the passes. He was very good. But man of the match, which he deserved, was Saliba. Saliba had an excellent game today. But like I said, I don't think Manchester City was awful. Arsenal was very good the way they approached the game. The defensive setup, the way they approached the game from the middle of the park. Jorginho also had a very good role to play in the game. He was so that's why when he was subbed off, I didn't surprise because he covered a lot of space in the game. Unlike the Jorginho we know, he used to just sit back, just sit in front of the back for to get the balls. But today he actually covered a lot of space. Yeah. So Arsenal had a really good game. Saliba defensively was awesome, and
Okay.
this is the first time. Before I round up, this is the first time Man City is playing a game in the Etihad in 2 years without scoring. This is the first time in 2 years. The last time was against Crystal Palace in March of 2022.
Yeah.
And it's not like Arsenal tied the game 0-0 because of Raya making saves. Raya didn't make even any save. The so-called shot on target was the head from Ake in the first half. That's the shot on target. Nothing else happened.
Yeah. Okay. Nico, well, I mean, what do you make of those who say that yes, Arsenal came defended well. They had, but their mentality and the approach of Arteta was that whatever happens, don't lose. Keep it tight at the back. We know Manchester City, although yes, they were favorites at home, but if you look at their last game or their last three games, Manchester City has not been scoring that many goals. And if Haaland is not in form or is not having lots of views, then who do you expect to score for Manchester City against a well organized team like Arsenal? So yes, Arsenal was good defensively, but they didn't have enough opportunities moving forward, or they did not create enough chances. I mean, what do you say? Arteta did not take any risk in this game. I mean, was that the right approach?
Um, the right approach, I would say yes. I would trend towards agreeing. The right approach. Again, we cannot go to the Etihad and try to play flair football when they have people like Rodri in there, and Kevin De Bruyne, and with Doku and Grealish coming off the bench, people who can create. Bernardo Silva, you saw how Bernardo Silva took Kivior to the cleaners the few times he got this chance. So the game, let me just say this, had it was a high stakes game. It had a lot of implications, and the best of all those opportunities or implications for Arsenal would have been to come away from there without a loss, because losing would have done so much to the mentality of these guys. Basically, losing would have been like, oh, you failed your audition again, you failed the test again, because last year you went to the Etihad, you lost 4 goals to 1, and basically at that point we kind of knew that your season was done. You were no longer going to be in the title chase. Can you imagine Arsenal going to the Etihad today and losing 4-1 again, the way we did last year? It would have just, I mean, all these storylines and headlines and all these things would have come out about us fluffing another opportunity, dropping, bottling, about us bottling an opportunity, to go top and things like that. And so I think the best outcome of this game was Arsenal not losing the game. Simple, period. It does a lot to the mentality of the players. I'm really excited to see how the players take on the next set of challenges that they have. Um, and I can tell you, the right approach today was not losing the game, and it's exactly what happened. Ajab called out the fact that Odegaard didn't have a good game. I tend to agree. Odegaard was a little passive, but that's also because of the work he had to do, or the task he was given. Disrupt play as much as you can and cover for Jorginho, as much as you can. Saka didn't have a particularly good game. I think they pulled him off the game a little too late. I would have taken him off at halftime because it was clear that he was not all there, doing okay. Um, and Trossard had a chance. Trossard had a chance that was clear cut. I think that was the only clear cut chance we had all game, because every other thing was like too much traffic, too much congestion in the boxes, very few touches in the opposition's box. Haaland didn't even get time to get as close to the ball as much as possible. The only chance that Haaland really got was that flick header that he was trying to kick, and the ball went under his foot, and that was towards the end of the game. That corner kick that came in from I think Kevin De Bruyne. But outside of that, guys, I think this is a good outcome for Arsenal because it does wonders to mentality for the team, and it also sets up the storylines for what happens in the next game. So it will be interesting to see how Arsenal react to this draw, because that also means that the streak of 8 wins that Arsenal has had since 2024 comes to an end, right? And now we played a game without scoring a goal when we've been scoring an average of 4 goals a game over the past 8 games since the start of 2024. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see how we go about it in the next few days, the next few rounds of play. I'm excited to see it, and I'm looking forward to being here for it. So
Yeah. So actually, with this draw, it means that Arsenal is not in control of their own destiny. They have to hope for a loss or a
exactly.
draw by Liverpool in order to try to take control. They have some tough games coming up. Don't you think that Teta, because towards the end, let's say 75 minutes, there was like opportunities. Could he not have taken like a little bit more risk, in order to test Manchester City? Because let's be honest, this is not the best. Even if you guys don't understand, deny De Bruyne the ball. For me, De Bruyne was not a really big threat, given that for the past 3, 4 games we have not even seen the real De Bruyne. So Manchester City also, they not in their best form. But Arsenal, as you just said, coming from with 8 wins in 2014, scoring many goals, I think they should have taken more risk. Don't you think? Think that, Ajab? Why did
Yeah,
Manchester Arsenal
yeah.
not
The
take
point
more risk?
of the risk, I think, yeah. At some point, I thought they were going to take off Kai Havertz and bring in like a striker in the name of Ketia. I thought that was what he was going to do at some point. But like I said, I know Man City has not been their best recently. Arsenal has been firing from all angles, but the game, Man City also came. If you notice, Man City came into this game with a different mindset. They were not coming to play the game. They played this game they approached the game like a Liverpool side instead. The high pressing football where they always play. You understand? And so by the time Arsenal wanted to settle in the game, it was already about 20 minutes or something like that. So they approached the game now from a different angle. But the risk, yeah, maybe they didn't take a lot of risk because Man City had a lot of the ball. That's why Arsenal could not really take the risk. Most of the games they've been playing, they are always in control of the game. That's why they always dominate. Even the last time they played City when they won, they were not actually in control of the game. But they had, and Man City too also had just one shot on target, or maybe no shot on target when they met in how do you say, what was the name of the Arsenal stadium?
At the Emirates.
Emirates, the
At the
Emirates, the
Emirates, yeah, I
Emirates.
think the one goal
Hmm.
from Martinelli. I think Man City
Yeah,
too didn't really have a shot in target. So I'm just trying to
exactly.
think that as Ateta has just put in his mind that when I play City, I approach it different. Maybe he didn't take enough risks, like you said. But the good thing now about them is that all three teams that are fighting for the championship, they've played each other already. They're not going to meet again. And then now also all three teams still have to play Tottenham Hotspur. So
Oh yeah.
let's see how it goes. So
Yeah.
it's going to be
Okay. Let me actually give the last point about this game. Then we can talk about. I know Ajab wants to talk about that Liverpool game. You know, Liverpool is like part of that the title. So I think mentally, what Pep Guardiola actually did here is that he played with about 5, 6 midfielders that are very good on the ball. They keep that possession and deny Arsenal. They were denied Arsenal the ball, not necessarily breaking like defensive line, but just trying to pull Arsenal out of their defensive postures. But Arsenal was so disciplined, and then Arsenal also in the first 15, 20 minutes was not actually good, like in transition. I saw some bad passes. Even players like Rice could not pull out the ball. I saw some bad touches. Even other guys had some bad touches. But one that was so glaring, I think it was that on the second half. It was Kiwo. You know, Kiwo like just a simple pass. I think back he could not actually control the ball. You know, that's when after that, not long after that, he actually got replaced. But this was all because they played so deep. You know, Arsenal. I think Arsenal played the way they played. Let me see, the way they played in their first game because
yes.
they sat so deep and took their opportunity. You know, that deflected goal from Martinelli. That's what made the difference. However, today there was no gap. They were so disciplined. They were good, and did not even give Manchester City a lot of opportunities like to fire and go. So for me, tactically, it was a sound game. Is what I expected. That's why I actually predicted a draw. But let's talk about Liverpool. Let's talk about that game against Brighton. Yeah, a game that was very interesting. Brighton went up, you know, at Anfield, one go up. Then Liverpool, Mo Salah definitely scored the winning goal. But Ajab, tell me about this game. What did you see, and how do you rate Liverpool as far as I know they are top of the table, but if you had the chance, I asked you one, two, three. Who's number one? Who finishes number one? Who finishes number two? Who finishes number three? So you
That's
should answer this by the end of your analysis
Yeah,
of
it's
this
really
game.
it's tough to. I will try. While discussing, while analyzing, I will try to figure out which I will give top three, because it's really tough for at this point. At this point, I thought Liverpool will be struggling, but they're still there. So I'll get there. But I'm starting to think that De Zerbi will probably be next Liverpool manager. The way he plays his game, yeah, I thought. I used to think he's really good, and then I was at some point I became a little skeptical, but I noticed that probably, yeah, maybe they had that. Brighton is another team too that we have to say they've struggled a lot this season based on injuries. There was a time they played with they had 14 injured players, like 14 regular players, not just team players, regular players. So they've also struggled. And but the way this guy approaches his games, the Zerbi, I think he's gonna be a good. If they want to look just around someone within, let's say the EPL, or someone who has played against Liverpool a couple of times or a few times, Deserbi may be the one to replace Jurgen Klopp. So let me go back into the game. It was a good game. Two teams which are good at playing football. Both teams came. Liverpool needs to win to stay on top. Brighton is not the kind of team that is going to sit back against anybody, even if they're fighting relegation. That's how Deserbi is going to play his game. So that's why the game was an exciting game. The Liverpool, they lost a lot of chance. They missed a lot of chances, even though the second goal, the you could see it coming from when Kwanzaa gave that ball to, well, I forgot who he gave it to before they gave it to McAllister. You could see that something is going to happen, and then Salah got that ball, one touch. The second one was a goal. But Salah himself, that game, he had missed a lot of chances. And they said, I think this was the first game. This was the game that he had the most chances ever in the EPL, second before Arsenal game. I think they said he had 11 attempts before. Yeah, I think that's the most game. That's the game he had the most attempts. So, but the general from my perspective with regards to who I think is going to be first, second, I'm going to put sentiment or emotion. I'm not gonna be objective here because me, I want Liverpool to win the league. So I'll still see them finishing first at this point. And then Liverpool first. I don't know. Liverpool first, Arsenal second, City third. That's how
Wow.
I see it.
Wow. Okay, so thank you for that. Let's go to Nico. Nico, you see a team like Liverpool, they are playing Brighton. I know it's a home game, but there are many missed opportunities. But at the end of the day, they do the job. Do you think this team can go all the way to win the title? And at the end of your also analysis, you can tell me one, two, three. Who will be number one, number two, number three?
Uh, one key term I want to use to describe Liverpool is mentality monsters. These guys play football with the type of mentality that we saw Sir Alex Ferguson's Man United play football. There's always this air of we will do it in spite of the time clock. There's always this air about Liverpool of we will still get the goals we need when we want to get the goals, or we will still build up to that point where we can get the goals we need or create the chances we need to get this point. So when the game started and Welbeck scored, you know, 3 4 minutes in, and then he puts the game, he scores. You're thinking to yourself, "Ooh, Liverpool is in for a tough day." And yes, Brighton did play, that Brighton style of football that made us think for a second that they could actually get something from this game. But just think about it, for all the miscues, all the misplaced, all the unusual chances, all the unusual misses that Salah had that Ajab has already called out. Luis Diaz missing that clear cut chance where he literally, I mean, and you're wondering to yourself, like, okay, what's going to happen here? But somehow, Klopp makes a tweak. Liverpool comes away with the goals or the goods. So I call them mentality monsters because I've rarely seen Liverpool panic this season. And to think, to think, as like 38, what is it, 38 games, and they've come from behind. 38 games in the last 2 years, they've come from behind to win. Think about it. This was the 39th game. They've come from behind to win. So mentality monsters, that's all I'm gonna say. As far as them winning the league, I'm not too sure. Ajab alluded to the fact that all the top three right now still have to play Tottenham Spurs, Hotspurs. The difference with Liverpool is that they'll be playing Spurs at home at Anfield. Man City has to go to North London, to White Hart Lane. Arsenal has to go to White Hart Lane. But Spurs has to travel to Anfield, and we know the atmosphere at Anfield. Where I think Liverpool is going to struggle is when they play West Ham after the Europa League. Is it West Ham? After their Europa League game. I think whoever they play after that game against Atalanta, the first leg, and also the person they play against after Atalanta on the second leg. Um,
They
that's
play,
what's gonna make or
they
break
play
their season.
Everton.
Yes, Everton. There you go, and it's a derby game. There you go.
Mhm.
It's a derby game. So I think that's where they will capitulate, but I'm not sure yet. I just think that's where they will capitulate, and you will see a wobble. You will notice a wobble, especially if Atalanta gives them a tough game that Thursday night. Outside of that, I think any of these top three guys can win it. But of course, I will go with my Arsenal team. I know we have a tough road ahead, but I think on run of form and the fact that we've come away from the Etihad with 1 point, the mentality of these guys now is going to switch on to the part where it's like we have to do this because we've passed the test after test after test this season. So I just feel bad for whoever is coming next on Arsenal's list of fixtures. I think Arsenal is going to just cruise through. I'm not going to put it out there in the universe just yet, but I'm going to say Arsenal is going to win the league, followed by Liverpool and then Man City.
Arsenal is playing Luton Town next.
Yes.
They're
And
playing Luton
imagine
Town.
us coming away from there with like 8 goals
No, yeah, they're playing in
in
Emirates.
London, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Emirates. They're playing at the Emirates
They're coming
Stadium.
to London.
Yep.
So imagine us just taking them apart.
Well,
And
this
you
is
know,
this is what I'll actually say. Defense wins championships, right? So if you
hmm
think if defense wins championships, for me, I look at Arsenal as one of the best defensive teams right now, and also scoring many goals. So they have a good chance. That point coming from the Emirates is actually a mental boost. It's a mental boost. I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal goes the season unbeaten from this point on. I won't be surprised if they go from this point on unbeaten. However, just because I want to stick with my guns, I still have Manchester City finishing first, Arsenal second, and Liverpool third.
that's gonna be
That's
an interesting one.
yes, yes. I mean, just because I don't want to have like I don't want to look at the table and I feel that okay, Liverpool, no, because the table is not always right. The
Mhm.
table is not always right. I've seen teams not being the best teams in a season win the league. That happens also in football, and also gamblers use that word also that the table is not always right. So sometimes you have to envisage that something is going to happen. Something's going to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if teams like Arsenal finish this season unbeaten. You know. So, do we have any comments? Let's go to comments. We're right on the 1 hour mark. I think we
Oh yeah.
have so much content in this one. It's been a good show, but we can actually go to comments and see what you guys are talking about. And
Okay.
that's for you, Nico. Any comments?
Yeah, on Facebook, I don't see any comments. On here, we've already talked about Bitacola's comment, which I'll highlight, about Arsenal and City. We also have Elvis Agoetang, who was laughing at a point there. I don't know which point he was laughing at. And now Zago agrees with me that the Newcastle penalty was not a penalty. I think I don't know. It goes either way, but it's unfortunate that the ref called it, and even more that VAR told him to come back and check. I would have let it go, but just the fact that he went to go check on VAR, it makes you think they're gonna give it. So yeah, it's in there. I think Zago was talking about the game between Newcastle and West Ham. Was it? No,
No,
I'm
No,
he's
no,
mistaken.
no.
talking
He was
about
talking about this game, the game today.
Arsenal, yeah, Arsenal, Man
Man
City.
City,
Okay,
Arsenal,
Yeah,
Man City,
yeah.
Arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he said it was a dull game. He would have wanted to see a lot more, I guess. There were no clear cut chances, really, very limited clear cut chances. But then he was impressed with Arsenal and then says we have to give credit to Arsenal. And then De Bruyne was poor.
yeah. Let me.
Uh, yes,
Yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Finish. Yeah.
Yeah, he says De Bruyne was poor. And then I don't remember which point he was referring to here, but he said I made a good point somewhere. And then at some point he says, at some point it is good to prevent being massacred mentally. And that's I think that's the
Yeah.
point I was making. Yeah, yeah. That's it for the
That,
comments.
that's it. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think Arteta was also aware. He didn't have his guy like okay, Zinchenko. Yes, normally he's not a good defensive player, right? But if you realize today, Arsenal didn't have that option of using an inverted wing back. So when they normally we use an inverted wing back. They have more opportunities like going forward. They can create more passing lanes like going forward. But Arsenal did not have that today, and that's why we saw like for the most part, Arsenal struggled when they tried to turn defense into offense. They were not like easy outlets, and then they didn't have that big target up front. I think the goalkeeper today's delivery was very very poor. Because all the times or most of the times he actually tried to go long to the sides and all that he was missing it. And then also the fullbacks like Arsenal, even when they tried to go like long, I saw Saliba, although he was given man of the match, I think for the most part it's because of his defensive game. But as far as offense, trying to turn it into offense into attack, it was difficult for them. But I think if Arsenal can have a guy like Partey, if they can have Partey stay fit, even if he's coming from the bench but playing like 30 minutes, playing more significant minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and stuff like that, he can actually be essential for their push to the title. I mean,
Yeah.
Any last comments, guys, before we actually close this? I think this was a
Yeah.
very good uh, 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 program we had today. We talked a lot about the different games. I know Champions League football is coming. No, I think the league plays first in
Yes.
midweek before the Champions League actually
Champions League,
comes.
yeah, Champions League,
Yeah.
yeah. The one thing I wanted to talk is about the inverted fullback. If Zinchenko played this game, Man City would have punished Arsenal so bad. He was
Yes.
on the bench,
I was
and
gonna
I
say
even
the
noticed
same
when they
thing.
removed what's his name,
Kivio.
Kievo, they
Kivio.
still brought in Tomiyasu because they
Yeah.
noticed that Man City had brought in pace. That's why as
Doku.
soon
They
as
put in Doku
Doku and Jack
and
Grealish came in,
Grealish
they
on the
just
right
subbed in
side.
Kivio to
Yeah.
bring in Tomiyasu, who is someone who can match him. Yeah, I think if
Yeah.
Zinchenko played this game, he would have been punished a lot because.
But is it, he's not, is he, I mean, is he, normally if Arsenal is defending, if Arsenal is defending, but I've seen in games where Arsenal is defending where Zinchenko doesn't start, however, 10, 15 minutes towards the end of the game,
And we bring him
if they
in.
think that they
Yeah.
need some offense, and that's why I call the risk, if they think that they need some offense and all that, they bring a player like
Yeah, but
Zinchenko because
Mhm.
yeah,
That's
he,
what we did. That's what we
yeah,
did against Brentford.
against
yeah.
Brentford,
No,
exactly.
that's what I wanted to say. You do that too
Exactly.
based on the opponent.
Hmm.
Exactly.
When Man City is bringing in Doku
So
and
let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this other
yeah,
way. If you think Arsenal was actually third and they needed to catch up, they needed a win, you think a guy like Zinchenko won't come in? If,
third
Absolutely.
if, if,
But
depending.
that was
if
not the
let's say
case
if they
today.
were 1-0 down, if Manchester City was 1-0 up, you think a
Mm-hmm.
guy like Zinchenko doesn't come in?
Yes. Yes.
Against if they were 1-0 down
Yes.
with the
Yes,
If we're
if
same.
let's say
chasing the game,
Manchester
yes.
City was leading 1-0 and
I
Mhm.
think if we
Arsenal
were
needs a
chasing the game,
goal.
a lot of things would have changed. We
Yeah,
would
but
have
that's
pulled
it.
out.
Yeah, that's automatic. Any coach will
Yeah.
want to put in. Any coach will even try to do it. It happens like that. Once
Yeah.
you're one goal down, sometimes you say, "I'd rather lose this game than tie this game." You know,
Yeah.
that's how some coaches look at it. Either I come back or you win me 2-0, or I come back and I tie the
Correct.
game. That's
Yeah.
how coaches normally look at it. You know.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thanks then, guys. We've come to the end of this segment. I know Paris Saint-Germain or Olympique Marseille, the French derby is about to start. So it
I'll,
was
I'll,
a nice
I'll
time.
rather watch.
Nice
I'd
one.
rather watch Coton Sport versus Canon than watch PSG versus Marseille.
Well, it's a lot of
I'm gonna
football
go watch
fans.
because Arsenal's next player is coming from PSG, so I
Who's
still
that?
have hopes.
Who's that?
Who's that? Who's that?
He's talking about
Mbappe, of
Mbappe.
course.
He's talking about
He's gonna
Mbappe.
wear the number 14 shirt.
Forget
What?
about it.
We've offered them
Arsenal.
Eddie Nketiah and Gabriel Jesus.
If I'm Arsenal, even if Mbappe becomes available, I don't get him. It's just because
But it'll be a nice thing though. But
no,
yeah,
it's gonna unsettle the team. Teams
yeah,
that need Mbappe are like Real Madrid. Those are the teams should be going for Mbappe and not Arsenal.
true, true, true.
Anyway, thanks guys. Thanks once more. I think it was a solid show. Our next show is next weekend, and then we will have that show. We preview. I think the Champions League because
Yes.
that week after that is gonna be Champions League football and the EPL. So we shall watch out on our timelines, our different timelines, on the different spaces because we shall actually be posting the flyers. And please, guys, subscribe, share our videos. We want to grow this platform and want to grow this platform with you guys. Now, thanks for watching. This was Football Trio presented by Nico, Ajab, and your host, Tru3lion. Thanks once more.
Beauty. Thank you
Thank you
guys.
guys.
Have